Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? This is Dan here with the Cigar Salute. I want to apologize to you guys for taking so long in between videos. It's been a real eventful month and change for me, and we got a lot of stuff to catch up on. And I hope everyone enjoyed the rest of their summer, and you guys are enjoying your fall. The weather in New York here has been pretty wacky. 85, 90 degrees within the last couple of weeks, and then last week we had a couple of days that were in the mid 50s, and everyone's getting sick and everything. So guys, just pay attention to that, and hope you guys are doing well and enjoying yourselves. And we got a lot of stuff to cover tonight, but let me get it out of the way first. I want to not only apologize for taking so long in between videos, I also want to apologize to you guys for not getting VendorBowl out to you guys as promised. And it is still coming, and I know I keep saying that, and I apologize that it hasn't come yet. My reasoning for the videos not coming just yet is I had something happen during the recording process for VendorBowl that completely threw a wrench in the works, and we are going to cover that tonight. And I think it's very important that this comes out before the VendorBowl feature, because this is something that can affect anybody, and it could affect anybody that's been using the vendors that I recommended to you. Okay, so the VendorBowl feature, I had been recording it sporadically throughout the summer. As you guys know, I was doing basically a comparison between 5 of the most popular Cuban cigar internet vendors, and I was placing multiple orders with each of those vendors. And basically the concept of the feature was to go over the pros and cons of each vendor and to showcase some of the wares that I had procured from these vendors. So in the process of recording VendorBowl, I had about 70% of it completed, and I decided that I had a hole, basically a glaring hole in my research, and that was that I only had one order from Friends of Habanos, one of the vendors I was reviewing for VendorBowl. So I decided that, ordering one box of St. Louis Rey Regios, as beautiful as that box was, it wasn't really fair to that vendor, fair to Friends of Habanos. It wasn't fair to them just to rate them based on one transaction. So I decided to place a mixed order of singles and a 10-count box of Petit Edmundos from Friends of Habanos at the end of July. And during the time I was waiting to receive that order, a friend of mine who was uncomfortable ordering cigars for themselves, they had also asked me to place an order for Monte Cristo Petit Edmundos, and I decided to order them from Puro Express. This was in the 3rd week of August. I decided to order them from Puro Express, and since Puro Express had some good sales running at that time, I decided to, in addition to the box of Petit Edmundos for a friend, I decided to place an order for a 10-count box of Monte Cristo Petit No. 2s and a 25-count box of Ramon Iones Small Club Coronas. So it was the 3rd week of August. I think it was Saturday the 19th or the 18th that I received the order from Friends of Habanos, and the Monday following is when I received the Puro Express order with the 3 boxes. Now, when I receive an order from any vendor that's been in the mail, I always make sure to open it as soon as I have an opportunity, and I inspect every cigar thoroughly, typically for mold, but also to check for anything else, okay, that might be wrong. Cracks, sometimes the cigars are over humidified. There might be a cigar that's damaged to the point where it's unsmokable, like a split in the wrapper. And of course, we always want to check for cigar beetles. I have been smoking cigars for 8 years now, over 8 years now, just over 8 years, consistently. And I have never, ever seen a cigar beetle in person. I've seen a hole left by a cigar beetle one time, and that was already there when I had bought the cigar at the shop. I just wasn't cognizant enough. I wasn't aware of it when I bought it. But as soon as I saw it, I took that stick out of my humidor, and I never saw any cigar beetles. And this was before I even had a temperature-controlled unit. So the Puro Express order, and if you guys have ever ordered from Puro Express, then you know that they don't package their cigars for shipping like any other vendor really that I've ever seen. I really like the way they ship their orders. They use these pool float type shippers that are like inflatable, and they're it's like an almost like a bubble wrap, but it's thicker, and it's like a pillow, and they place the boxes inside of the pillow, and they vacuum seal every box. So, and if they don't vacuum seal it, then I believe they just place it in plastic. But either way, the boxes were isolated from one another inside of this inflatable pillow. So I inspected the Petit Edmundos. They were beautiful. 2017s. My friend got hooked up with a nice box of cigars. He was very pleased. He actually shared them with me when I brought it to his house. They were delicious. Thank you, George. And the Monte Cristo Petit number 2s, they were May 2018s. And let me just say, man, I've never been a huge Monte number 2 fan. I know that's like a legendary Cuban cigar. It's, raved about at Cigar Aficionado. It made number 1 cigar. It was Cigar of the Year 2013 or 2013. It was Cigar of the Year at Cigar Aficionado. And I love Monte Cristo. I was late to the Monte Cristo party. They just didn't catch on with me because the number 2 just wasn't my thing. It was good, but it wasn't like this legendary cigar like people say it. Like to me it wasn't. But I also understand that they're produced in very large quantities and they might not always be consistent. But let me say that these Petit number 2s, man, they are hitting something ridiculous. They are great cigars, and you can get a 10 count box for like $100, $110, and for that price, absolutely, I would definitely check them out. But let me cut to the chase here, and let me get to the point of tonight's feature. So, after inspecting these 2 boxes, they were both fine, no mold, no issues, no anything. Cigars were beautiful. I got to the box of Ramon Allones Smoke Club Coronas, and I looked at the bottom of the box. It was a September 2017 box date, and I was thrilled to see that. What I was not thrilled to see was a hole at the bottom of the box, which is made out of wood, by the way, the box at the bottom. The dress box, I believe they use veneered plywood, and then they use cedar sheets inside under the paper. I could be mistaken with that, but either way, the bottom of the box is made out of wood. So I noticed a hole the size of a BB, maybe like 3 or 4 millimeters wide, perfectly round hole at the bottom of this box. It looked like, at first it looked like to me that somebody had like driven a nail through the bottom of the box, and I realized that probably wasn't a nail that made that hole. Okay, so at this point, I'm feeling extra alert, and I opened the box, and oh man, the cigars were beautiful. It was a shame, it really was. It makes me upset just thinking about it. But the top row of cigars, everything looked fine. But unfortunately, when I got to the bottom layer of cigars in the dress box, I encountered something that I really wished I hadn't. I noticed a very distinct dust at the bottom of the box. And make no mistake, okay? Little flakes, jagged pieces of tobacco that chip off during shipping and stuff like that, and you see that at the bottom of the box. That's nothing to worry about. It's, it's like you could tell that it was like like jagged flakes and stuff like that, that's fine. You know, like obviously having that in mass quantities means that your cigars are probably too dry, and you should really make sure that you pay attention to that and nurse them back to health and proper humidity. But the dust that a tobacco beetle leaves is extremely distinct. Like nothing else causes this. It's like a fine brown powder. Okay, it doesn't look like jagged flakes. It looks like powder. Okay, and this powder was all over the bottom of the box. And sure enough, I pick up one of the cigars on the bottom row. First cigar that I pick up, I tap it, and a fair amount of powder comes right out of the cigar. And with the avalanche of powder that comes out of the cigar, falls out a little beetle. Yeah. And you can imagine my disdain for the little motherfucker as my index finger promptly clamped right down on him and showed him the wrath of God. And I didn't even bother to inspect the rest of the cigars after that. I threw them immediately into a Ziploc bag and I contacted Puro Express. Okay, if you ever run into a situation like this, you guys need to get that box inside a Ziploc bag and sealed as soon as possible, because these insects do have wings, they do fly, and they will seek out your humidor and they will try to get in if you let the box sit out in the open air. They will, if they feel like their home, you know, the box of cigars, if they feel like they've been compromised, they will try to escape the box. Okay, so what you want to do in this situation, when you get a box of cigars, okay, now all the magazines and internet articles I've ever read on beetles, they show the beetles exiting or entering a cigar through the side. You see that distinct, perfectly round hole. Okay, that's not always the case, I am discovering. All right, these beetles in the Ramon Iones box, there wasn't a single cigar that had a hole on the side. What they did have were holes in the feet. They tunneled through the feet of the cigar. Okay, and there was a distinct, on top of the distinct powder, there was a distinct, perfectly round hole. Now, it's sometimes tough to see because the way that Cuban cigars are rolled, the tobacco and the filler that's bunched in the middle is like rolled almost like they call it, I think they call it entubado style, and I'm not 100% sure that that's what they use every time in Cuban style rolling, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Okay, but you can see that the filler tobacco in the center of the cigar a lot of times is bunched like a bunch of straws put together. Okay, so you know, I guess sometimes that these beetles, they naturally, they take advantage of the natural pathways that are created in the filler, like the air channels and stuff. But make no mistake that just because, you know, don't feel totally at ease just because you don't see holes on the side of your cigars. Okay, and depending on what stage of the infestation it is, you know, when you get a box of cigars, the beetles may still be larvae inside of the cigars, and they may have just hatched and they may not be feeding yet. And I'm going to go into these scenarios tonight, okay? Because tonight what we are going to focus on is the tobacco beetle, and we are going to talk about wood mites, okay? So I'm going to talk about my experiences with tobacco beetles over the last couple of months, and I am going to talk to you about my experiences with wood mites. Excuse me. I'm going to teach you guys, I'm going to show you guys a picture, okay, of a tobacco beetle. I'm going to show you guys a picture of a wood mite later on when we get to that. And I am going to tell you guys how to make sure that you don't infect your collection if you happen to be unlucky enough to get a box that's infested. I'm going to teach you guys about the life cycle of the tobacco beetle and how to predict if your cigars are going to possibly have a problem or not. I'm going to teach you how to remedy that problem. I'm going to teach you how to kill these things for sure in all stages of their life cycle: eggs, larvae, cocoon, and adult beetles. And I am going to explain to you guys what to do about wood mites, and we're going to do a little bit of Q&A with some questions I've been getting from you guys via email and DM lately. Okay, so first off, I want to clarify about the tobacco beetle. Now, when I always thought of beetles, I think of the little brown beetles that you see local in New York. You know, like the ones that are like maybe a couple, you know, like a centimeter long, and they fly, and they, you know, they're annoying in the summertime. They fucking fly on your shirt, and they stick to your shirt, and you flick them off, and you know, they're harmless and everything. These aren't as big as those beetles at all. Okay, they are about the size of a goddamn sesame seed. Okay, now maybe it wasn't fully grown yet. I'm pretty sure it was though. And what they like to do also, I've been told, is play dead. So you flick this thing out of your cigar and it's surrounded by a bunch of dark colored dust. You might not even notice it at first until you see the motherfucker trying to crawl away. Alright? So let's take a look at a tobacco beetle. Now this tobacco beetle is something that I photographed personally, and this didn't come from the internet or anything. This came out of a box of Vegas Robena Famosos, 2015 Vegas Robena Famosos. I'm going to explain to you guys the two boxes that I already had on top of this Ramon Iones box that I had gotten from Puro Express. I'm going to explain to you guys where I got these boxes and what I did about it. And I'm going to explain to you guys the measures that you can take to prevent this from happening to you. All right, so let's take a look at that tobacco beetle and we'll come right back. Welcome back, guys. So I just want to get something out of the way real quick. All right, I want to say right now that tobacco beetles, as much as it sucks, as gross as it is, it can happen to any vendor, no matter how good their QC is, no matter how vigilant they are. So the fact that this box had tobacco beetles, while I do find it a little weird because the box was supposedly opened and inspected prior to shipping, and it was adult beetles inside of the box, it can happen to anybody, okay? And I want to say right now that Puro Express, upon receiving my email, they were extremely vigilant in handling the situation, and they were extremely courteous, and no questions asked. I sent them a photograph of the cigar and the beetle, and they told me to throw the box out. They didn't ask for it back, which, if they did, that would have pissed me off royally, because like, what the fuck are you going to do with it at that point, you know? They told me to throw the box out, and they put another one in the mail that day, okay? And what they also did, you guys might remember my last video that I did. I had a box of Cohiba Corona Especials that I showed you guys the anti-counterfeiting measures in the bands. And when I was in the process of that, and when I was showing the outer cardboard box, on the bottom there was a little white sticker with 7 or 8 numbers on the bottom. And I didn't know what that number was at the time, but that box also came from Puro Express, which does not have beetles, by the way. It's been checked a couple of times after I discovered the beetles in the Ramon Iones. But what that number is actually Puro Express's own inventory system. You know, that's how they locate boxes. It's almost like a Dewey Decimal System for them. It's like a SKU number for Puro Express. So that's what that number is on that sticker if you get a box from them. Just to clarify, they asked me for that number on the bottom of the box of cigars, just so they could check their own inventory. And the replacement box that they sent me Obviously, that was beetle free, thankfully. So hopefully I never have that issue again with them. And let me just say right now, the other 2 boxes that I had that had beetles in them, okay, so after let me backtrack a little bit, excuse me. After I found the beetles in the Ramon Ionis box, I decided to check my entire collection, okay? Because as you guys know, I have had a very active year with buying cigars. I have purchased well over 24 boxes of cigars this year from various vendors. And obviously, it would be catastrophic if I had a rampant beetle infestation. So immediately after throwing out that box of Ramon Ionis, I started checking my entire collection. So I decided to start with the most recently purchased boxes because, remember, it's the middle of August and it's 95 degrees outside, okay? Now, these cigars are sitting in the mail for, 7 to 15 days, and they're not being they're not stored in temperature controlled conditions when they're in transit. So these boxes of cigars, they're being exposed to temperatures of 90, 100 degrees, maybe more with the if you add the fact that they're inside a sealed package and they're in a hot cargo freight container or whatever, wherever they're stored. Who knows what those conditions are like, in the back of a mail truck or whatever. So I checked all the boxes that I received in August and July, and I really didn't order a lot this summer. But when I got back to the boxes that I had gotten in June, there were 2 boxes that I had purchased from Cigars of Habanos, the vintage section specifically. 2015 Vegas Robena Famosos and 2015 Monte Cristo Media Coronas. The Famosos and the Media Coronas were the only other 2 boxes out of dozens of boxes that had any beetle damage. And after all was said and done, I had to, between the 2 boxes, I had to throw out 3 of the Vegas Robena and 6 of the Media Coronas, okay? And what I did was I froze the remaining cigars and the box to kill the beetles, okay? And there weren't a lot of beetles in either one of the boxes. There was only a couple, all right? But just because you see a couple doesn't mean that there aren't more, all right? So if you inspect a box of cigars when you get it, and there are no beetles that you see, if you feel comfortable enough to not freeze those cigars, especially if you receive them in the summertime, I can't stress this enough, okay? If you receive a box of cigars in the summertime, you want to freeze it, okay? And I'm going to teach you guys how to go about that. But if you don't want to freeze that box of cigars, then either way, that box of cigars, no matter how good it looks, you should still keep it quarantined from the rest of your collection, all right? The reason that I probably got really lucky and I didn't have any other boxes infested or anything like that is because the majority of my boxes are stored separately from each other inside of a plastic tote. Now, I was using originally these Boveda humidor bags, which these are beautiful, beautiful bags, man. These things, they're expensive though. They're about $15 a pop. They come with a 69% Boveda right out of the box. I usually swap out the 69 for a 65%. This bag, this will actually hold 2 cabinet boxes or 3 boxes of 3 dress boxes of Petit Coronas. Okay, so they are not small and they are pretty heavy duty. The seal at the top, the zipper, it seals very well. Okay, now if you don't want to spend that kind of scratch on these type of bags, which it was getting too expensive for me to keep dropping $15, and I got like fucking 50 boxes in there. These Ziploc heavy duty bags, these freezer bags, will work just fine. Okay, and I threw a 65% Boveda pack in there, and this works just fine. It seals just as well. And what you can do with this, now this is a freezer bag, right? So you get a box of cigars and you're not sure, or you just want to, you want peace of mind. You take that box of cigars. You don't even have to take the cigars out of the box. You take the box and everything. You put them right in this. You put them right in the bag like this. No humidification. Just the cigar box. You put it in the fridge, 24 hours. Okay. After it's been in the fridge for 24 hours. Oh, excuse me. Before we even do that, what you need to do is, if your freezer does not have a thermometer inside it, you need to know exactly how cold your freezer is. And the way you can do that, the way I did it, and it worked just fine, is I found out how cold my freezer got with a standard hygrometer that also works as a thermometer that I had laying around from an old humidor. I threw that in my freezer for 10 minutes and I learned that my freezer is 24 degrees. Okay, that's the lowest it'll go. A lot of the standard freezers, they're not going to get that much colder than 24, 25 degrees. Now, what does this mean for killing beetles? Okay, the colder it gets, the less time that the cigars have to spend in the freezer. But at 25 degrees, the cigars need to spend about 5 to 7 days in the freezer to make sure that eggs, larvae, cocoon, adults, every station of the cross, you want to hit every station of the cross, right? So fridge, 24 hours. Freezer, 7 days. Fridge again, another 24 hours. Then you pull the bag out of the fridge after that second 24-hour period, and you lay them out, leave it in a Ziploc bag, lay the cigars out at room temperature in the Ziploc bag, and let it acclimate to room temperature for another 24 hours. And then you put your humidification, your Boveda pack, in that bag, and you got to let them acclimate for about 2 to 4 weeks afterwards. Okay? That method that I just ran through is a 100% guaranteed way to kill beetles at every stage of their life cycle. Okay? And we are going to go over the life cycle of the tobacco beetle so we can accurately predict where in that life cycle it might be when you receive a box of cigars, if that box is in fact infested. Okay? So let me just say flat out right now that the 2 boxes that I got from Cigars of Habanos, from the vintage section specifically, that had beetles, I contacted Ravi from Cigars of Habanos about it, and he did offer to make an exchange. But to me, it just wasn't worth it to send 9 cigars back, and then you know what I'm saying. It was just like, if it was the whole box that was ruined, yeah, I would have done it. But 9 cigars, just the juice wasn't worth the squeeze to me. And if you're asking why did it take me 2 months after I got these boxes to notice anything, well, I inspected those boxes, both of those boxes, thoroughly on the day that I received them. But let me explain something right now. Okay, we're going to go through the life cycle of a tobacco beetle. All right. Now, a tobacco beetle's life cycle is depending on the temperatures. The higher the temperature, the quicker that they grow. Okay, it varies from 40 to 90 days. All right. Now, once the eggs, all right, and the eggs are microscopic. You're not going to see them on the leaves. You're not going to see them in the cigars. You'll never know that they're there unless they hatch. Okay? I've heard conflicting figures about how long the eggs can be potentially activated. I've heard 6 months. I've heard longer. That I'm not 100% sure of. But let me just say that temperatures above 72 to 75 degrees for more than 24 hours is enough to activate these eggs into hatching. Okay, and from that day of activation, it takes about 6 to 10 days for the larva to emerge. Okay, now the majority of the life cycle of the beetle will be spent as larva. All right, and that will last from 6 to 10 weeks. So that right there gives us an explanation about why I did not see any beetles when I received the cigars, but why, 2 months later, I had beetles in the cigars. So these cigars came from the vintage section at Cigars of Habanos. They were 2015 boxes that I purchased in 2019. So that means that these boxes were sitting potentially in that warehouse for 4 years. Now, I know what you're thinking. But Dan, didn't Habanos SA start freezing their cigars in 2006? Yes, that is true. That they absolutely did. In 2006, Habanos SA opened a 90,000 square foot facility, and all cigars meant for export were to be placed in this facility and frozen prior to export. So bear in mind, if you get a box of cigars on the secondary market or from a friend that just came back from Cuba, you gotta freeze it. There's just no getting around it. If you got a box of cigars that came directly from Cuba, it needs to be frozen. All right? If you went down to Cuba and you got cigars, they gotta be frozen. If you grab custom rolls that are Cuban cigars, they gotta be frozen. Because the cigars that were not meant for export, that were sold in the local market, that were rolled, farm rolls and everything like that, they have to be frozen because they were not frozen before they were sold. Okay? But if you have a box of cigars sitting in a warehouse for 4 years, that means that they have, 1,400 days at least where an adult tobacco beetle can come along and lay eggs in those boxes. And if the warehouse in which the cigars were stored is temperature controlled, then the eggs are not going to hatch in the warehouse, but they are going to hatch during transit, because if you order them during the summertime and it's fucking 90 degrees out, that right there is enough. A Cigars of Habanos order, it might spend 7 to 12 days, 7 to 15 days in the mail. More than enough time for those eggs to become activated, and by the time you're getting that box, those eggs might just be hatching, and those larvae might just start feeding right after you get the cigars. So literally, if you look at the life cycle of the beetle, that's probably what happened. At some, I don't, like I said, I don't have a confirmation on how long the tobacco beetle eggs stay active for. If I do get confirmation on that, I will leave that information on the comment section down below. Okay? So keep an eye out for a sticky post at the bottom at the comment section in the future if this is something that you're interested in. But what probably happened with my Cigars of Habanos order is that these cigars were either never frozen by Habanos SA like they should have been, which, I mean, I like to think that that's not the case, but Cuba being Cuba, But with the probable, with the most plausible scenario is that at some point, relatively recently, an adult tobacco beetle laid eggs in those boxes in the warehouse, and when they were shipped out to me, they became activated, and pretty much when I got the boxes, the larvae were just starting to feed, and then they entered a cocoon period. Like I said, the larvae emerge after 6 to 10 days from the day of activation with the eggs, and they feed for 5 to 10 weeks, which fits right in with our time frame from when I got the cigars to when I noticed the beetles. And then they pupation, they make a cocoon inside the cigar, and that takes 1 to 3 weeks. And again, this is temperature dependent. And adults live 1 to 4 weeks, and they do not feed. That's very important. The adult beetles do not feed. They might drink, but they do not feed. So they will not destroy your cigars, but what they will do is lay eggs everywhere. An adult female beetle lays 10 to 100 eggs per session or whatever. I don't know if I guess that's their entire life cycle, because they only live 1 to 4 weeks. So, if they're only living for a few weeks, then I'm sure that they only lay that one clutch of eggs. So, that explains it, because about 8 weeks after I got that box of cigars is when I noticed the adult beetles. And I had been smoking out of those cigar boxes, which it's possible that I smoked a couple of larvae and didn't know it. I mean, who knows? So we're going to go over a few temperature scenarios that will, these things are extremely sensitive to temperature. So we'll go over a couple of scenarios at what kind of conditions they can survive in. So they can survive for 16 days at 36 degrees Fahrenheit at all stages. Okay, so if let's say you leave a box of cigars in your garage in the humidor or in a Ziploc bag with the Boveda in it inside your garage during the winter, and let's say it's a mild winter and it's only 30 degrees all winter, they will die after about 16 days, okay? They will die at 7 days at 25 degrees, which is why I said that the box of cigars needs to remain in the freezer for a full 7 days, okay? I've read 5 some places, but I would say 7 is the better bet. Why not? If you're gonna go through the trouble of freezing your cigars, you wanna be sure, all right? So 7 days in the freezer. The reason that I recommend that you do the first day in the fridge and the last day in the fridge before the 7 days and after the 7 days is to acclimate the cigars to lower temperature. You don't want to just shock the cigars by throwing them in from 65, 70 degree temperature and humidity to all of a sudden, sub-zero temperatures. So, under 62 degrees Fahrenheit, this I found very interesting. Under 62 degrees Fahrenheit, that will actually stunt the growth cycle of a beetle, okay? So if you have larvae that are inside your cigars, they will not be able to turn into adults and pupate if the temperature is under 62 degrees, all right? And adults die at 39 degrees for 4 days. That makes no sense, actually. Well, oh no, excuse me. The 16 days at 36 degrees is the eggs and the larvae. The adults are apparently more sensitive to temperature than the larvae and the eggs are. 39 degrees, 4 days, the adults die. So I apologize for the confusion there. But, so it's obvious that these guys don't like the cold. But they thrive in the heat, and the warmer it is, the faster that they will grow, the faster they will multiply, the more eggs that will be laid. And in the hottest temperatures, you will actually encounter multiple generations of beetles in the same environment. Okay? So when you order a box of cigars, you want to be cognizant of a few things. Okay? Did you order them from the vintage section? How old is that box of cigars? If it's been sitting in a warehouse for a while, you might want to give it some extra attention and really keep your eye on it if you're uncomfortable about freezing your cigars. Okay? When in the calendar year, are you ordering these cigars? If you're ordering cigars in the middle of the summer and they're sitting in temperatures well above the temperature required to hatch a clutch of eggs, then you really want to consider freezing the cigars, okay? Because, why risk it? If you don't want to freeze your cigars, then don't order during the summer, okay? Because that is the only guaranteed way that you don't have beetles in your cigars if you're not going to freeze them. All right? Because if you order during the summertime, you are exposing those cigars. You're guaranteed to expose those cigars to temperatures that are higher than what is required to hatch a clutch of beetle eggs. Okay? Obviously, not every box of cigars has a clutch of beetle eggs inside it, but you never know which one does until it hatches. Okay? So, my other advice, when you get a box of cigars, no matter what time of year it is, these, excuse me, these are your best friends, okay? If you really, if you don't want to drop the scratch on these, then these serve the purpose just fine. Just, you can get a cube of, you can get a 12-pack cube of Bovedas right from their own website for about 40, 45 bucks. And this is a 12-pack of 65 percenters, all right? And inside those bags, they will last a long time because the better the seal, the longer the Boveda pack lasts, all right? So you want to isolate and you want to inspect very frequently. Twice a week I would inspect, honestly. For the first 4 weeks you get a box of cigars, I would inspect it twice a week at least. And you want to do that for at least 90 days after you get the box of cigars. You want, if you want to scale it back to once a week after a month or two, just to, be sure that nothing's going on, that's on you. If I were you, though, me personally, I will be, from here on out, I'm going to be more vigilant about not ordering during the summer, just because I don't want to guarantee that I'm going to expose my cigars to high temperatures. But if I order cigars during the summer, from now on, they're getting frozen, okay? Because I understand, like, sometimes, vendors have really good sales that you don't want to pass up, or, there's, you just want a box or whatever for whatever reason. The other option that you could always do is purchase from the secondary market, and they won't be in the mail as long, but even then, you're still potentially exposing the cigars to temperatures that could hatch the beetle eggs that might potentially be in your box. The other thing is that when you get a box of cigars, until you are absolutely 1,000% sure that there are no fucking beetles in that cigar, do not ever mix it. I used to do this too. Do not take a couple of singles out of that box to put in your humidor. You do not want to expose any of those cigars that are unconfirmed, that are not cleared 100%, given a 100% clean bill of health. You do not want to expose them to any of your other cigars in your collection. All it takes is one infested cigar to get placed in your humidor to wreck it, okay? One bad decision can wreck your entire cigar collection. Thousands of dollars. Some cigars are irreplaceable, limited editions, discontinued sticks, expensive, rare sticks. You don't want to even risk it. Why? Freezing your cigars will not affect the flavor if you do it properly, okay? And if you give the cigars a chance to reacclimate afterwards. The Vegas Habanos and the Montes, I've had both cigars since the beetle incident and since freezing them. I've had the custom rolls from Alex at the Hotel Commodoro as well. Thank you, Rob Rogers, by the way, for those custom rolls. Those are beautiful cigars, man. Alex at the Hotel Commodoro, he does phenomenal work, phenomenal artist with his blending and rolling. Okay. If you're skeptical about freezing, I'm telling you right now that the Famosos and the Media Coronas, they've already reacclimated properly and after freezing, and it didn't damage a single cigar, and they both still taste the way they tasted prior to me freezing them. Okay, so please fear not about freezing. I understand the hesitation of doing it, and even on top of that, it's a pain in the ass. You gotta make room for a box of cigars in your fucking freezer. Like, you don't want to do that. It's a pain in the ass. I get it, but just remember the choices that you make have consequences, and the choices that you make have benefits. So, when you're ordering cigars, be careful and be smart. All right, guys. So that about wraps it for tobacco beetles, okay? So we're going to get into wood mites real quick. And we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on these guys. Wood mites do not damage cigars, all right? And what they're doing in your humidor is eating the glue on the cigar bands, or they're entering the boxes to eat the glue on the labels are sometimes excuse me, guys. Sometimes affixed to dress boxes, like Monte Cristo Petit Edmundos. They have like a little yellow banner at the bottom that is glued on. I have a 2017 box of Petit Edmundos, and this box was clean as a whistle when I got it, and I opened it up the other day, and sure enough, there's all these little tiny white bugs crawling around on the cigars. They don't live on the cigars, by the way. They live on the wood, and they don't eat the cigars themselves, and they don't shit on the cigars themselves. They do that all on the wood, all right? And they're even smaller than a tobacco beetle. They're about the size of a little bit bigger than a poppy seed, okay? Let's take a look at a wood mite real quick, and let's come back, all right? Welcome back, guys. All right, so we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on wood mites. Wood mites are something that I've encountered a few times in my cigar smoking tenure. They are tiny, tiny little white bugs that eat the glue on cigar bands, and they sometimes come in wooden boxes of cigars. You're not really going to see them in dress boxes too often. The wood is what attracts them. They might sneak into your humidor if the seal's not good. But typically they might be hiding under a cigar band or something in a box. And if they get placed in your humidor, obviously they'll multiply and spread in the humidor. They are actually small, tiny arachnids related to spiders. And they lay eggs directly in the wood. And they hatch after about 2 to 6 weeks. And they go through a total of 6 molts. The first 3 molts, that's the nymph cycle, and then as nymphs they will go through 3 more molts before they become adults. And they do not have a long life cycle, probably a couple of months or so. And in the past, what I've done to get rid of them is just, if I spotted them, I basically killed as many as I could on the spot, and I kept checking that location until they were all dead. You can, if you have a large amount of them, you can freeze the box of cigars the same way you did with, the same way you would with tobacco beetles. You could freeze the box of cigars, and that will kill them. Or I've read that you can take the cigars out of a box, clean those cigars off, obviously, put them in a Ziploc bag with the Boveda, and then take the empty box and place it outside in the sun, open, for a few hours, and any remaining mites inside of the box will quickly disperse out of the box because they hate the light and they hate the heat, the extreme heat from the sun. So, like I said, they're not going to cause any damage to your cigars, but obviously we don't want, little fucking bugs crawling around on our collection. It's just, it's unsightly, it's gross to think about, and it's just, these are just, dilemmas that we face as collectors and enthusiasts regarding an organic product, which is basically, when you think about it, you have a bunch of rolled up fermented leaves sitting in a box in the corner of your room, and it's a it's a relatively high temperature and a highly humidified environment. Honestly, we're kind of lucky that really, like, tobacco beetles and wood mites are the only things you really have to worry about really taking up residence in your humidor. So I hope you guys found this information useful. And if you guys have any questions regarding my experiences with the tobacco beetles, or if you guys are unsure about something regarding tobacco beetles, I'll do my best to help you if you reach out. And hopefully none of you guys are having this issue, but I highly recommend, I can't stress enough, for the sake of your collections, guys, any of you guys who bought cigars this summer, check your boxes and check them again a week from now, check them again the week after that. Keep checking them, and make sure that everything's all right. And it's never too late to freeze the cigars. Okay, if you have any questions about the freezing process that I went through or anything like that, obviously don't hesitate to contact me. cigarsalute@gmail.com or cigar_salute on Instagram. Please add and subscribe to my channels on both platforms if you have them. And I've mentioned this before, but let me mention again that my Instagram is much more active than my YouTube. I am posting on there almost daily. I do a lot of basically tasting notes and cigar reviews, and I also do something called spotlights, where I take a specific box of cigars, I photograph every aspect of that box of cigars, the top, the bottom, the sides, all the graphics and artwork on that box, and then I close-ups of the band, close-ups of the cigar. It's just a real good way that I like to showcase some of my favorite cigars out of my collection that I come across that I'd like to share with you guys. Some of the 2018s and 19s that have been hitting something ridiculous that I'm really psyched about. The El Rey del Mundo Choice Supreme, or Schwa Supreme, or whatever, Anthony. The El Rey del Mundos, man. 2018's the Demitas, also one of my favorite cigars. El Rey del Mundo, I don't know what's going on with that, but the 2018s are phenomenal cigars. They have this very specific note that I equate to like ginger snaps or Biscoff, the European spice cookies. Just excellent, amazing flavors. And the Bolivar Royal Coronas. I just did a box split with a couple of coworkers, and I was extremely impressed with those. The 2018s, they're just smoking extremely well right now, and extremely flavorful and smooth cigars. And there was a couple of really good sales. Habanos, I think, still has them for $180 for a dress box of 25. So that's something to keep in mind. That's a great price. And right now they got the Hoyo de Monterrey Petit Robusto, one of my favorite cigars. I'm waiting on a 25 count cabinet box myself. I paid $165 for it, and fucking guys, they put for October, they put it on sale at $150. So I mean, you can't beat that price, and that's an incredible cigar. Anybody who's a fan of the Epicure No. 1 or Epicure No. 2, the Epicure No. 2 especially, the Hoyo de Monterrey Petit Robusto, it's 4 inches by 50 ring gauge, and also the Cohiba Medio Siglo, incredible cigar. I wasn't that psyched on the Siglo series for a while, but I decided to revisit the entire Siglo series. And let me just say, man, the Siglo series in general, I'm amazed at the consistency of it. It's not as full-flavored and rich as the Linea Classica of Cohiba, the classic line. But in its own right, they're excellent cigars, sweeter than the original Cohiba line, and in particular the Siglo 3, Siglo 4, and Medio Siglo, and even the Siglo 1s and Siglo 2s are incredible. Siglo 5s are great too, but I noticed that a lot of things coming out of the Partagas factory, and I think Siglo 5 is primarily rolled at the Partagas factory. I noticed a lot of the thinner ring gauge cigars coming out of the Partagas factory, even stuff as large as Corona Gordas. I noticed that they are rolled a little tight and packed a little tight. and it seems to be something specific to that factory. MSU is the current Partagas code. But a couple of questions that you guys had for me. A few of you guys had reached out, and I'm not sure what's prompted this question with several of you guys recently, but regarding the vendors and inventory. A couple of you guys have been skeptical about Habanos, Cigars of Habanos, and Puro Express, saying that all the Casa del Habanos and official retailers are out of certain cigars that these vendors seem to have supplies of. And how could they be genuine if everyone else is out, but these vendors have them? Well, let me explain right now that if you guys understand how the gray market works, which I will go into this more in depth during VendorBowl, but basically official Habanos resellers or retailers and La Casa del Habanos, they have to adhere to a set of rules that the gray market vendors that I purchase from and I recommend to you guys, they don't have to play by those rules. Okay, because they are not official specialists, so they're not retailers. What they do is purchase inventory under the table from a variety of distributors. I've gotten Habanos and Cigars of Habanos orders from, with boxes that were sourced from the Czech Republic, Asia and Switzerland, all over the place, really. Habanos and Cigars of Habanos in particular, they will procure cigars from any distributor that will sell to them, which is good for us because it gives these vendors an opportunity to stay stocked with cigars that other vendors might be out of, because they don't play by the rules and they're able to order from whatever channel will sell to them. Okay, now I'm sure that it's only official distributors, and I've never seen anything that would indicate that these vendors are purchasing from questionable sources or anything of the like. Every expensive cigar I've ever purchased, Cohiba or Monte or whatever, from either one of these vendors has passed every single authenticity check, including Cohiba Behiques. There are anti-counterfeiting measures in those bands for the Behique and Talisman, just like there are in the regular production bands. So hopefully that answers your question. The short answer is Habanos and Cigars of Habanos and Puro Express, they can get stock from places that official Habanos resellers or official Habanos specialists cannot. Okay? And another thing I wanted to speak about is a new accessory that I've come across, and I'm going to do a little demonstration with this accessory, and I'm going to explain what it is. Now, this is called the Cigar Medic. Okay? Now, the Cigar Medic actually measures the humidity inside of the cigar. So if you guys get a box of cigars, and it's about $30, okay? It's not too expensive. It takes 4 batteries, like the watch style batteries. LR44 is the number for the batteries. It actually comes with batteries. You're gonna have to, there's a little door on the back that you're gonna have to unscrew where this QC sticker is. You need a Phillips head screwdriver, a very small one, like the kind that would come with an eyeglass kit, and you need to pull the plastic tab that sits between the contacts and the batteries to activate the device. And you can see it's like almost like 2 corn stickers, like for corn on the cob. It's almost like that. You actually lay the cigar down flat on a table, and you turn the device on, and you insert it into the foot of the cigar, and it will actually read the humidity inside of the cigar. Now, I am super psyched about this tool, because when you get a box of cigars from a vendor, the rule is to let it acclimate for a few weeks. And the reason that we let it acclimate is because it's usually too humidified, either because the vendor did that on purpose to ship it better, to make sure that the cigars don't dry out and crack, or the cigars are young and still very moist from when the tobacco was wet in the rolling process. Okay, because cigar rollers, before rolling the tobacco leaves, they will wet the leaves to make them more pliable so they don't break during the rolling process. All right. So I hope I've answered a lot of your questions, guys. We're going to go into a quick showcase with the Cigar Medics, and if you guys have any more questions, feel free always to hit me up, and we'll come back in a minute after this showcase for the Cigar Medic. All right. Welcome back, guys. So this is the humidimeter by Cigar Medics, and you can see this is the one that I own, which is opened already, and I've used this. And this one is still in the package. This is actually from my Uncle John. What's up, Uncle John? I'm going to be sending this to him pretty soon with a few bodyguards. So let me read the back of the package for you guys. Very simple, straightforward operation of this device. It's very handy, and it's I think it'll be very useful for you guys. I'm personally going to be using it when I get a box of cigars in from a vendor. By using this device, it will tell me how long probably that the cigars will need to acclimate, if at all. And I am going to be getting an order from Habanos any day now of Hoyo de Monterrey Petit Robustos and Fonseca Cosacos. So I'm going to be very curious to see what the humidity is in those cigars when they arrive. And the higher the humidity, obviously, the longer the cigar would need to acclimate before you can smoke it and not have to worry about it being acrid or going out or having draw issues. So let me read the directions on the back of the package real quick. Number 1, press the on button and 00% will appear on the LCD display. Number 2, clean the probes with the dry cloth. Number 3, place the cigar on a flat surface and insert the humidimeter probes completely into the foot and or cap of the cigar. We're just going to do the foot since we're not smoking it right now and clipping the cap. Okay? Allow humidimeter up to 5 to 10 seconds as it will accurately calculate and display the humidity percentage on the LCD screen. Alright, and they have a little, and it powers off automatically after a few seconds, by the way, and it says refer to the chart for general reference. And they go through relative humidity, 0 to 65% evaporation of natural oils, cracking or breaking of outer wrapper, fast burn or bitter taste, 65 to 75% slow even burn and smoke, smooth even draw, optimal flavor and taste, 75 plus, difficult to draw smoke, uneven burn or tunneling, increased probability of mold. Well, that's true for the 75%. I don't necessarily agree with the 0 to 65. 0 to 60 maybe, but it should really, the second window, in my opinion, should be 60 to 75% should be the optimal, because Cuban cigars in particular, they do better at lower humidities than American market cigars do, but American market cigars do just fine at 65%, trust me. All right, so we have right here a Bolivar Royal Corona and a Arturo Fuente Don Carlos. Both amazing, incredible cigars. I like the Bolivar better than the Don Carlos, but the Don Carlos is just a beautifully rolled cigar. You can see this is like, I think this is the eye of the shark right here, or at least it's a shark-shaped cigar. You can see the shape, like just incredible craftsmanship right here, and the rolling and everything like that. It's just, oh man, it's just a very regal looking cigar, and looks like it took some damage. No, that's not a beetle hole. All right, good. I saw that little hole and I was like, oh fuck, is that a beetle hole? Don't fucking tell me that. Thank God it's not. I'm surprised. Those little bastards are little architects, perfectly round holes every time. So we got our two probes right here, which keeps reminding you. You have to wonder, was this like a corn on the cob thing at one time? So let's turn it on. All right. Now we're zeroed out, and the LCD, there you go. The backlight turns off real quick. All right, so just for our sake, all right, zeroed out. We're gonna insert our probes. There we go. Look at that, 64%. Beautiful. That's right exactly where we want to be. All right, it's zeroed out. Let's clean those probes again. The dry cloth, like it says. And let's see our Fuente right here. Ooh, 53%. I wonder what's going on there. Let me try a different part. Yeah, 54%. I don't know what's going on my bottom shelf, but this is actually good. This alerts me that I may need to change the Boveda packs in my bottom shelf of my Winador, because I'm not sure. I keep all my cigars in my Winador are divided by, they're arranged by country of origin. So the top shelf is Nicaraguans and a whole assortment of brands. The second singles drawer is Cubans. The third one is split in half. On the left half is all Aganorsa brands like Illusione, Viaje, Casa Fernandez. And on the right-hand side of that drawer, there's a little divider, and I have all my Maduros. And on the bottom shelf is all my Dominicans. So I'm not really sure what's going on with that, but you can see this thing works very well. It's a very simple device. Like I said, batteries are included. I got it for about $30 right off the company's website, and obviously the value that this thing could have for somebody like us, who orders large amounts of cigars through the mail, and we have this whole thing where we try to leave the boxes that we purchase. We try to leave them untouched for a certain period of time after we get them, to control, to ensure that we have a good experience and that they're not too humidified. Something like this is invaluable to possibly not having to wait as long to be able to smoke the cigars that we purchase. I know, because it's a lot of, people ask me, why do we have to let the cigars sit for a few weeks? I want to smoke them now. Well, I'll tell you right now that, sometimes it may work out in your favor, and you might light up a cigar the day you get that box in the mail, and it might be phenomenal. But all it takes is one or two bad experiences, and you're not going to do that ever again. I'll tell you that right now, because nothing is worse than getting a beautiful box of cigars and lighting one up, and you can't even get a fucking draw on it. And if you do, it just tastes like shit. And it just, it's like trying to fucking suck a milkshake through a tiny straw. Just trying to get a little bit of smoke out of it, and the thing stays fucking, it can't stay lit more than 10 seconds. It fucking keeps going out, and it's a pain in the fucking ass, man. It's over humidification is what it is, and some vendors, I think they over humidify their cigars a little bit on purpose to make them ship better and not break during shipping, but who knows. But even at 70%, I noticed that it's just too humid. And they just perform much better at 65, whether it's New World American market cigars or it's Cuban cigars. 65 is really like where I recommend people stay. A lot of Cuban enthusiasts, they'll go down as far as 60 to 62 relative humidity. Personally, for me, since my Winador is mixed with Cuban and American market cigars, I don't want to endanger the American market cigars by going down too low in the humidity. I'm sure they'd be, if anything, just a little bit dry. But I always prefer a little bit dry to a little bit too moist, to be honest. Unless it's women we're talking about. Excuse me. Anyways, guys, I hope this has been useful for you tonight. And I'll be coming out with VendorBowl soon. The last few weeks have just been fucking crazy for me, man. Just a lot of things going on in my personal life. And I've been away a lot, trying to travel a little bit, visit friends in other places and whatnot, and I've been just trying to focus on enjoying myself, living the best life I can. So I want to thank you guys that have come into my life this year, and I want to thank you guys that have really, just been super generous and kind, and just some of you guys have become real good friends of mine. And I want to take a moment to thank my man Zach. He sent me 3 beautiful cigars about a month and a half ago. A Juego de Monterrey Epicure number 2, the Cocheca Reserva, I believe it was, and a Cohiba Maduro 5, the Magicos, I believe it was, or the Genios, I can't recall which one it was, but fucking beautiful cigar, man. And the Cohiba Talisman, which I have not smoked yet. That thing looks like an absolute monster. But Zach, thank you again for the sticks, brother. Much, much appreciated. And just want to wish you guys well, wish you peace and blessings, and we'll catch up again soon, all right? I'll definitely be getting VendorBowl back underway. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to record sections of it to reflect upon this beetle incident. Obviously, this affects the scores for Puro Express and Cigars of Habanos, but please do not discount these 2 vendors, because, like I said, this could happen with anybody with the tobacco beetles, all right? They're a natural pest. They're always going to be around in some shape or form, and, if you smoke enough cigars, you're going to wind up running into one day, whether you like it or not. It's just how it is. Some people have been smoking for 20 years, 30 years, I've never seen one, but, it's not that hard for it to happen. So stay frosty out there. If you guys have any questions, always hit me up, and I'll do my best to help you. If I can't get you the answer, I will ask somebody that can get you the answer, or I will point you in that direction. All right, this community thrives on word of mouth and sharing information and knowledge, and to me, to have a platform to be able to help others is a truly gratifying and humbling experience. And I just want to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to exercise this platform. And I want to thank you guys because I'm coming up on 500 subscribers on YouTube, and I am coming up on 1,500 subscribers on Instagram. So the channel is really picking up, and I really have, I really never expected to get this kind of exposure, but I'm grateful that I did, and I'm grateful that I'm able to help you guys, and I'm grateful to be in touch with you guys. So anybody that just wants to, give me a shout and talk cigars or whatever, I'll get back to you whenever I can. I got a crew of people that I talk to while I'm smoking on the daily, and it's it's a great experience for me, and I've made a lot of good friends this way, and I'm making new friends all the time. And I just want to say hello to my friend Nicole from Toronto, and my friend Lisa, who just moved to Maine from Florida, and Seabold, as always, my man, and my man John. Have fun on your double tonight, buddy. I'm glad you enjoyed that Monty number 2. My man Mike from Montreal, my boy Anthony from Brooklyn, my man Brock, and my man Zane. Be good, all my friends. Be good, all of you. All right, stay in touch. Stay out of trouble. Take care.